Whenever a new agent hits Valorant, it's always interesting to see how long it takes them, if it ever does happen, for them to become a regular part of the meta. And with Neon, we did see a little bit of this agent picked over in Europe, most notably by Team Liquid, but it wasn't until the new 404 meta that we started to see North America really experiment in the top level with this agent. But I haven't really been sold on Neon's use on Haven, which is that's the map that Neon is used on. I haven't been sold on Neon's use on Haven or any map really at all. Of course, up until now, until Optic pulled the agent out against Cloud9. One thing we need to talk about when we do talk about duelists, though, is the elephant in the room always being Jett. We all know the reason Jett is so powerful. She has the dash, so when she has an operator especially, she's holding an angle, whether she hits or misses, she is immediately out of there, and then it is virtually untradeable. And then when you combine the knife ultimate, where they basically have a free eco round to then save up for the expensive operator, it's no doubt why Jett is one of the best, actually literally the best agent in the game, and 100% the best duelist in the game. Chamber has started to take some of that primary opping capabilities because the Rendezvous does do similar things as Jett's dash. There's obviously a fair bit of difference between Chamber and Jett. They're not even considered the same in-game Valorant roles. One's a duelist, one's a sentinel, but they both have the untradeability option in their kit. So it really comes down to, do you want someone who can go and take space, or do you want someone who can hold space? That's the main difference between Jett and Chamber, respectively. The main role in a sort of universal philosophical sense, if we want to use that, of a duelist is the ability to take space. And when you do have your primary op player, assuming that you want a primary op player of whatever composition you're using, when you have your primary op be on your chamber, that does mean that you need to have another duelist in the mix to then be taking your space. Sometimes it could also just be another Jett, but more often than not, that's when you'll be seeing the Raze's come into play. Raze's ability to take space is very useful and very abusable in claustrophobic maps. Sometimes Fracture, but obviously Bind is going to be the iconic Raze map. All the tight corners, very, very simple and straightforward to clear with their grenades, as well as the boom bot. A lot easier to just use some of those tools than even trying to dry peek or even trying to flash into those corners. On Haven, however, it's not exactly the same. Bind is incredibly close, incredibly claustrophobic. Haven is, while maybe not the most open map, it does have a lot of open corridors. And it's these open corridors that Neon really comes into the mix. Compared to Raze, Neon's abilities aren't quite as destructive in nature on their own, and they are utilized a lot more effectively to split a site rather than just straight clearing a small little section of, let's say, a hallway or a small room, which is where Raze generally shines. Long A and long C are, of course, the two obvious ones of where operators can just hold incredibly strong sight lines that, as a solo player, can lock down essentially an entire quadrant of the map. But then when you have your operator player on a chamber, you then need to ask, how are we then going to take the space? Whether it's taking a site to get the spike plant on the attack, or perhaps taking space on the defense, or even going for a retake. Neon's fast movement speed allows her as an agent to get down these very long corridors faster than any other agent and immediately be there, literally taking up space as a physical body and able to fight and able to engage. But it wasn't until this Optic versus Cloud9 match that I really saw how that could be utilized to the benefit of the other teammates. And there's one round in particular that I wanted to show. This match on Haven is the opening map of this best of 3 series in the upper bracket semifinals, and the round in question is going to be round 20. Optic on the attacking side, they have pulled similar variations of this strategy before, but it's this round that I think illustrates the best what I mean regarding Neon's ability to take space with her sight splitting tools. In this round, Optic start out with the short default while leaning towards C, preparing for a site take. Crash's death from an ever-curious Vanity is a little bit unfortunate. However, it does inform Optic that the C site might be a little less defended than usual, and because of that, they immediately pull the trigger. Victor rushes forward, relay bolt to clear the corner, and fast lane to deny vision from both defender connector and garage. Looking at previous rounds, Crashies would be watching the flank at this position anyway. However, with Ye's Chambers tools, there's not that much of a threat of being backstabbed or having space taken from behind them. They have Chambers' trademark waiting for anyone to flank. But while Victor is taking the site, with the trademark watching for a flank, the entire team is up at the entrance onto the site just to give some extra support and guarantee that the spike plant can go down. And in a matter of moments, Victor is out of there, back down long C with the rest of the team. And Chamber as well has rendezvoused, instantly getting himself back into an even further back position to utilize the long range of the operator. As you can see, this isn't a flawless strategy. You do still have to deal with a retake, and with a 5-on-4 advantage, Cloud9 were geared to take this either way, though we do have to mention very, very lucky smoke defuse as well. But despite losing the round, I still think this was a really good example of how Neon is able to forge her own identity as an entry agent in Valorant. Of course, Jett and Raze in that order are still the top duelists in the game. And I don't really think there are any other maps, maybe Breeze, but we'll have to see. I really don't think there are that many other maps that will allow Neon to play to her strengths like Haven does. But I also don't think that every agent needs to be picked the exact same number of times for a game to be considered balanced. Some characters being more of a niche pick, being utilized better in a niche position, is in some ways an even better sign of a healthy meta game than everyone just trying to be considered the same. Because oftentimes when you see that happen, when you see developers balance around wanting everyone to be picked the exact same, is that the identities are lost. As long as the identities are maintained in a healthy way, then the game itself is in a healthy space. I hope you've enjoyed my ramblings on how I came around on Neon. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.